What is food? Food is healthy, natural, fresh plants and animals and their byproducts that are unadulterated. What kind of food are people eating? They're eating food that's highly adulterated, highly processed with additives and preservatives and coloring agents that people don't realize are really creating disturbance in their metabolic system. So within Bauman College, within the Natural Chef program, within Nutrition Essentials for Everyone, which is a community program, it breaks down good information in intelligent language with practical application, particularly around recipes and cooking, so people can go home and create more of their own experience of health.
So we're doubling this, right, Amy? So we really need 4.
Oh, we are doubling this? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Most of our food decisions are not rational. They're emotional. I'm hungry. I want to eat. That looks good. I want it.
How do they taste, guys?
Oh, that's right.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Those are super delicious.
Eating for health is taking it a step further to encourage or teach or support people to create discrimination, choice between this good food or this good food.
Oh, nice plating, guys. Good job. Okay, so yeah, let's eat.
You guys, that was awesome.
Eating for health is looking at a bullseye, looking at a circle, looking at a plate, and breaking it out into constituent parts of fats and identifying healthy fats, which are largely plant fats. So avocados or olives or olive oil or nuts and seeds, they're not just fat, they're also concentrated foods with some protein and fibers and minerals as well. And then proteins, and looking at a mix of protein, there's a dozen healthy proteins. So people don't have to eat all soybeans or all beef, they can have lots of different types of protein throughout the day, and then breaking out carbohydrates into 4 different categories. So I broke them out into seasonal fruits and leafy vegetables and starchy vegetables, and then crunchy vegetables. So what's the difference between leafy and crunchy? A carrot is crunchy and spinach is leafy, and then including beverages, which are really important, and breaking that into water and tea and fresh juice and mineral broth, which is stock that we can use for soups.
You know what I really love about the model is that it includes things like mineral broth, and different types of broth, bone broth, which is so medicinal. It just sort of opened my mind as far as what types of food to eat, and also the idea of putting booster foods and spices. You know, they're so incredibly important and really fun to play with. I mean, spices add so much texture and life to what you eat.
Oh, it's nice. The spice is not too strong. It comes on actually like later.
On the tamarind?
It's a builder spice. Whatever, there's spicy in there.
In the sauce, I think, yeah. That was the tamarind. It was just tamarind. Oh, serrano, tamarind, and
Serrano chili.
and garlic.
Is it possible to soak the onions?
So just a little differentiation. What makes this system different than others? What makes different than the pyramid or different from a raw diet or a cooked diet? I created a model called the 4 levels of eating because it's looking at things emotionally and spiritually and mentally. And that's where a lot of us are living. Most of our food decisions are not rational, they're emotional. I'm hungry, I want to eat, that looks good, I want it. Very primitive, instinctual. That's called eating for pleasure, and there's nothing wrong with eating for pleasure. What most people tend to eat for pleasure is cookies and milk, because that's when they got as a baby, and when they feel unhappy, they eat cookies and milk, or the derivatives thereof. The second level is eating for energy, and we need to eat to keep our energy going. Many people figure the more I eat, the more energy I'll have, and they're eating to get through the day, and they may have sandwiches or burritos or pizzas or just normal food, fairly healthy food. But it may not be all that nutrient dense. It may actually be somewhat refined, and it may have plenty of added chemicals that are unhealthy.
I wasn't necessarily a health nut. I didn't eat too many vegetables. I would eat some fruit, but mainly it was, a lot of fast food. I started working out more, and I understood that in order for me to become truly healthy, I had to actually change my diet completely.
At a certain point in almost anyone's life, could be 20, 30, 40, 50, although we have children who are 5 and 10 years old who are obese and have learning difficulties and have blood sugar problems and diabetes, that whole epidemic, is they go, I'm sick. And at that point, we go to level 3, which is eating for recovery. And since many or most people are wounded, injured, out of shape, out of health, look in the mirror and freak out, people go on a fixed program. So it's a recovery program. No more refined sugars, no more trans fats, no more hormone-enriched meats. Eat, good food, and sometimes it's like Weight Watchers, it's calorie counting, or portion control, or other kind of measures of discrimination. That's eating for recovery. It's a good thing for people to gain a discipline. The question is the discipline external? Somebody's telling someone else what to do. The expert said, eat my diet. Here's a weight loss program. It'll work for you. Well, people go, sure, I'll try that. But what happens in watching people across time is it plateaus after a few weeks or a few months or a few years. And then they regress and they eat the foods they weren't eating, and then they're back to where they were. Eating for health is taking it a step further to encourage or teach or support people to create internal discipline, not external. Internal sensibility, maturity, discrimination, choice between this good food or this good food, rather than this bad food and this good food. So it takes some of the judgment out, which is a key element of mindfulness, is let's lose some judgment here. And if people are going to eat something that is not super healthy, just eat it and enjoy it and don't overeat it. Because overeating is the #1 problem. I'll say that again, overeating is the #1 problem. People overeat all kinds of foods for all kinds of reasons. Eating for health is looking at discrimination and understanding what your body needs. Your body may respond beautifully to meat, it may respond poorly to meat. So it's beyond the argument about what's really best and giving the individual the choice to figure it out for him or herself.
Well, I know when I first started the nutrition program here at Bauman College, that very first week, when I went into the grocery store, I became just aware of everything, started reading all the labels, and just a lot of the cookies and chips and things I used to buy in the grocery store, I just started walking past them, a lot has changed. I have 3 kids, so, I've changed the way that I cook a lot of foods. It was just a good experience for me, just kind of being introduced to new foods also, and trying them and either liking some of them or maybe not liking some, but at least I became more aware of the food choices that I had control over.
Choices are looking at really fresh local food. And you go, why local? Well, local is supporting people in our neighborhood who are growing food. 100 years ago, 90% of people were farmers. 90% of people lived on the land and worked the land, and they worked it in a natural way. It may not have been organic, but it wasn't driven by chemicals. Today, 10% of people are making all the food for the country, and the food is saturated with chemicals. Too much fertilizer, too much herbicide, pesticide, fungicide, and things we don't even know about. So, supporting local people who are growing natural organic creates a business, creates an economy, and it builds a culture of health. Another concept that I find very healthful is called a diet direction. And within that eating for health chart, we can organize foods around a building diet, a balancing diet, or a cleansing diet. And that really helps people to gain some understanding and coherence.
Here at this, in our, the Eating for Health model and at Bauman College, what we do is we kind of take all these variables into consideration. Bioindividuality. What season of the year is it? What's their health condition right now? Are they weak and anemic and have been bedridden for months? Or are they, dealing with something that's got a little more inflammation, those types of things. and maybe what age of life are there. So we kind of take all these variables and then kind of help a person, guide them to make a choice.
A building diet is good for people who are exhausted. It's a tough life. There's too much going on and people are stressed out. So they've run into insufficiency of nutrients, just like an insufficiency of money. Their check is bounced and their symptoms are the interest that they're paying. And that happens. Nutrition is an economy of health. So a building diet would have more calories from proteins and fats versus carbohydrate. And you go, well, what would that look like? Well, it might mean looking and have a couple of servings of good proteins, a couple of servings of good fats, and maybe a couple of servings or 3 servings of good carbohydrates. A cleansing diet on the other side of the equation is more calories from carbohydrates and fluids and fibers than fats and protein. So that would be starting from the outside in on the circle and looking at the beverages and making sure people are super hydrated. And then looking at the carbohydrate and making sure they're getting 3 or 4 servings per meal. So that could be a really big salad, could be some fruit, could be some whole grains or root vegetables, but really a high vegetable diet. And then bring in a category called booster foods. And that's a signature of the Eating for Health system. Whether it's herbs and spices or seaweed or nutritional yeast or algae, which is little green food that is really important to our health. When people add those booster foods, they're getting trace minerals and nutrients and phytonutrients and environmental protectors, meaning they're helping us to deal with radiation and electromagnetic stress and all kinds of problems that we're dealing with. And that becomes a small amount of food, like a teaspoon to a tablespoon of those boosters, but it has terrific value with very little calorie, and then enough protein, maybe 1 serving per meal, and enough fat, maybe 1 serving per meal relative to 4 servings of carbohydrates. So it's a cleansing diet. And then in the middle is balancing. And balancing is as many calories of fats and protein as carbohydrates. So it'd be kind of a mix of good variety of the proteins and fats relative to the carbs and the boosters and the beverages.
Eating for Health brought a new light on how to eat in life. I mean, oftentimes in the media, what we see is the next new diet craze, you know? Do this for 2 months, lose 10 pounds, you know? But the Eating for Health concept tells you that it's a lifestyle change. It's not about, losing weight for a wedding or something like that. It's about you always consistently eating wholesome foods, feeling good all the time so that you don't need the new diet. And I think Eating for Health brought that to my attention about what I need to eat each day. And I love it.
It takes anywhere from a month for every year a person's had a problem. So people come to see me, they're 65 years old, they've had problems for 35 years. They've lived with chronic problems that have progressed, and they go, well, do you think if I do this for 2 months I'll be better? I go, think about 2 or 3 years. Think about getting yourself organized on a way of life. It's not like, gee, I think I'll take a short vacation from my bad habits, have some good habits, and then I'll be able to go back to my bad habits. That's immature thinking. I'm going, you could reverse or manage or control or improve your illness and improve your quality of life by getting organized around your foods and eating for health.
What initially brought me to Bauman College is my own health issues. I've had asthma since 4 years old, and what happened is, as a result of a lot of side effects of asthma medications that had a lot of steroids, I developed osteoporosis in my mid-40s. And I was pretty devastated because the doctor said the only way you can really build better bone density is by medication. So I decided to, take it on my own and to dive into nutrition, and Bauman College seemed like, I've heard so many good things about it, so I decided to go there. And at the end of NC, I just learned so many other things, and I was sharing what I knew with other people, that by the time 2 years had passed, I applied everything that I learned in the NC programs, and I applied it on myself, and in that time I reversed my osteoporosis. The numbers are now going the opposite direction as opposed to getting worse, which is what most doctors said would happen unless I started taking medications. So I was elated.
It takes most people 2, 3, 4 years for their cancer and their immune system to recover from oncology and radiation and chemotherapy and drug therapy, which is pretty depleting, as we all know. Now, it's fine. I'm not against any of this medical work, but medicine tends to deplete our nutritional reserves. It tends to throw our economy of health into a crisis. It tends to bankrupt our cells. They're little banks with nickels, dimes, and quarters. Every time someone has a cup of herb tea, they throw a quarter in the bank. Have a cup of green tea, they throw $1 in the tank. They have a cup of fresh juice, they put $3 in the bank. They have a good meal, they put, again, depending on their absorption, money in the bank. Well, if you're sick, it takes a while to get back up to normal. But getting into that rhythm and routine and loving it and sharing that with other people turns a depressing situation into optimistic and exciting situation. That's what we're looking at with Eating for Health. There's a good vibe with this approach.
The reason why I'm so passionate about eating better or nutrition in general is because it's so much more than just the food. It's about the community, it's about the culture, it's about traditions, and I think we're a little bit in a dark age right now as far as food and community goes. And what eating for health does, and what eating better does, is that it reminds us that simple things like sitting down and taking a deep breath or showing gratitude before you eat actually helps with digestion, or simple things like cooking will help stimulate your appetite, or certain things that our ancestors knew and did were actually beneficial for the health. And also eating together is beneficial for our well-being. So it's not just the food, but it's everything that revolves around that, from the farmer, from the soil to the farmer to the animal to the to the bees. I mean, it involves everything. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's eating healthier is actually saving the world, saving the planet, and improving quality of life, which I think is crucial.
We do have a pretty large to overwhelming health crisis. Really, the main thing is people don't know how to be healthy. So we have a medical problem in that medical institutions and doctors and hospitals are using urgent and emergent technologies to deal with chronic issues that are stemming out of lifestyle issues and environmental issues and nutritional issues. So we're using the wrong tool to fix a big problem. What I'm looking at is bringing wellness into the equation, bringing health to medicine, having natural health educators and chefs and nutritionists and fitness people, meditation teachers, doing group and personal services, teaching classes and working with people one-on-one, so people can learn how to take better care of themselves and not be so much of a cost burden on the medical and insurance system that can't really deal with that. So I see this as a real huge recovery element for individuals, families, cultures, and the nation, is learning how to eat well together.
How do they taste, guys? Oh, that's right. Thank you. Oh my goodness, those are super delicious.